Since I've been at Pantheon, the very beginning, 2021, I thought, this is cool. Pantheon Dashboard is cool. But as a WordPress user, the only dashboard I care about is the WordPress admin dashboard. And having to log in to both WordPress and Pantheon to do similar but slightly different things, but sometimes there's information on the Pantheon dashboard that I can't get in WordPress, and sometimes there's information in the WordPress dashboard that I can't get on Pantheon, and sometimes there's information on both. That seemed like a bad experience to me. And when we started talking about an API in sort of a broad, hypothetical, imaginary sense, I thought, hey, here's a thing that would allow me to pull things from the Pantheon dashboard into the WordPress admin where I do my work. And that's what this project is all about. Now, it starts with a dashboard. Well, actually, before that, it starts with a machine token. So machine tokens are user-specific. So they're tied to individual users in the WordPress user meta. Obviously, you probably don't want to store your machine token in the database. It's secure, but it's not as secure as it could be. So the default is to use machine tokens that are keyed to the user ID of the user that is associated with the machine token that you're storing. So if you don't want to save it in user meta, you would use Pantheon Secrets using the particular key, and the plugin automatically uses Pantheon get secret, checks to see if that secret exists, pulls it down, and does that for each user. So each user of the site is using their unique machine token, and if it doesn't exist, then that user doesn't have access to all the stuff that requires a machine token to do things on Pantheon with the API. So it all starts with a machine token. Once that token is set, I can click here to test the connection, make sure I'm able to connect to the Pantheon API. I can clear a session token if there was a disruption and it was hanging onto an old session. Here's a place to do that. I did actually run into that in the course of building this plugin. But then once that's done, once we have that information, we have this dashboard. And this is really just for me to see that it's doing stuff. We can see that it's connected to the API. We got the site ID. You can see what the environment looks like. If I go over here to this environment, I can see that it's on the dev environment. That makes sense. And I can switch the connection mode from Git to SFTP. I see the PHP version. There's no lock. And then I've got more site information, basically the terminus site info type stuff that you would get. And then down here, these are all the endpoints that I can hit. This, again, was mostly to make sure. This is one of the first things that I did to see what can I do here. So this is all specifically stuff that either relates to sites or, in some cases, things that relate to users. May or may not be actively in use in this implementation, but these are things that I have access to. Things that are missing from this are things that apply to workspaces or all environments or organizations or any of that stuff. All that stuff is basically like blocked out of this this implementation because none of that stuff is relevant for a WordPress plugin to handle. So again, this is just showing that there is a connection, and it gives me the last time it pulled that information, it caches it into session or into a transient, so it's not making those requests a whole bunch of times, and that allows this page to load. It does do whatever it says, 26 different queries, so I want to make sure that it's not hitting 26 endpoints and we're waiting for the result of that. The first thing that I can do is I can turn on site add-ons. This is where Redis and Solr things are, and I can just do that thing. I will save my changes to turn on Redis, and then what I can immediately do, since this is actually connected to a real live site, if I go over to that site and to the Workflows tab, I will see that it's actually doing the thing that I asked it to do. So it's turning on Redis for this site. So that's already pretty cool. And I can do that from a local environment. I can do that from that environment. I could do that, and I could turn on Solr, all of that stuff. The next thing that we can do is, now that we've turned on Redis, let's install Object Cache Pro, shall we? This will, I just click on this button, and it will trigger that workflow to start. And it says that it was triggered successfully. There's the workflow ID. If I go into the dashboard in Pantheon, I can see that it's running the scaffold extensions job to install Object Cache Pro. If I go back to my plugins page after doing the Object Cache Pro installation workflow, I can see that Object Cache Pro is installed. This is a multi-site, so I can go into plugins and network activate Object Cache Pro, and now I've got that. I've got that running. It's all ready to go. I didn't need to do anything other than click a button. Now, I talked about being able to switch to SFTP mode, and you might ask why I would want to do that. Well, in WordPress, a thing that I frequently will want to do is install plugins, and I can't do that in Git mode because it's write access, and if I don't actually have access to Git, and I just want to install a plugin, then I would not be able to do that. But I can switch to SFTP mode. And then once I'm done switching, I would be able to actually add a plugin. And then one of the things that I've added into this plugin is the ability to then commit back those changes that I just made. So now I see a button is changed to switch to Git mode. I see I'm in SFTP mode. I'm going to go to plugins. I'm going to add plugin. I'm going to add, sure, Akismet. Now, I'll just pop over here so you can see that it's there. There's a bunch of changes. That makes sense. But I wouldn't have to actually do that because I can go over here to the development tab, and I can see there's a bunch of files. There's a bunch of Akismet plugin files. I can click on that to show the rest of them. And I will describe my changes, add Akismet, and then commit them. And then that's going to actually do the thing. And if I switch back over here, just to make sure that it's actually working, you can see it's committing those changes to the dev environment. So this is extremely powerful and potentially extremely dangerous, but also, like, these are things that WordPress users expect. I also can see, so I've got this list of commits. It's showing 32 commits. That's sort of a weird number. I don't know why it's doing 32. Maybe because there's only 32 commits on this environment. Probably that's it, because there's the initial commit right there. It shows a max of 50. That's how much you can actually pull from the API. But if I don't want to see that full commit log, I can just drop that down to 10. Now it's just showing the last 10. That's cool. I can see my environments here. Multidevs are a thing that we like to do, right? We like multidevs, so I can make a new multidev. Cloning everything from dev because I don't have the other environments. Actually, I think I do have the other environments. And I click the button to create the multidev, and it's going to create a multidev environment. And you can see there's a little progress bar. If I refresh this page, I can get rid of that, and I can continue to do my work. But if I pop over into the Workflows tab on Pantheon, I can see that it is actually creating the multidev. Now, backups are a thing that are pretty common. We've got... over here, I've got a backup on the test environment. This is just a file backup, a database backup. This is everything on the live environment. I can do any of those things, select which environment, including multi-devs, I want to back up. This time I'm just going to back up dev because we don't have a full backup of the dev environment. I can do everything. Again, I can choose which one of these things individually I want to do, and there's examples of each of those down here. And I can choose how long I want it to be stored. Let's just say 180. Create a backup, and then voila, it's got a little modal saying it's going to create the backup, and I can go back over here. And again, a normal WordPress user wouldn't be doing this. I'm just doing it for the purpose of demonstrating that it did trigger the workflow, and you can see that it is. So if I was just using WordPress, I would just see this, and I would see it's creating the backup, and I would either wait, or I could, again, refresh the page and go about my day. Similarly to database backups, we've got cloning content and files. And so I've got this clone tab. Again, we can select which environment we want to clone things into or from. Let's say we want to clone from the live into this new multidev that I created, and we're going to clone the database and the files from that. Click on that. There's a warning that says it will overwrite. And again, we get a little modal that says it's doing it. And this modal actually is polling the API. So there's actually an API endpoint that tells you like what the status of the workflow is. So it's doing an AJAX request to make sure that that is the case. And so it says it cloned successfully, and now it's done. And if I went to that environment, I would see that all that stuff is in there. Okay, so logs are a thing that are sometimes difficult for WordPress users to get access to. You need to be in SFTP mode. You need to find it under the WP content folder. So we have a tool here that can fetch logs. Now, this is working locally, so it's just pulling it from the local environment. And so that's why it's super fast. I can also clear it, and then there it goes. What happens actually when this happens is the logs actually get stored in a transient. So again, when you come back here, then this will just pop up and it'll be there to remember. And then it gets updated every time you hit fetch logs. So let's take a look at logging locally, or let's take a look at logging on the actual site. I can fetch the logs. It's already fetched. I can clear the logs. It's going to switch to SFTP mode, clear out that information. I'll probably still have some logs there because it will automatically regenerate the debug log, but this should delete that file and then allow it to be recreated for testing purposes. So then when I catch it again, there it is. And there it's got the new stuff. It says it was deleted successfully. That was the last log after the last one. Switched back to Git mode. All of those things. And that it looks the way that I expect it to. We can do deploys from dev to test or live, but first you need to initialize it. And we have this message here. If you haven't initialized those things, that you have to do that in the dashboard. That is something that is not in the API, so just pointing that out. But it is a thing that if I go to a different environment, then I can click the deploy to test, deploy, click the deploy now button, and it will deploy to test. Finally, maybe not finally, you can see I'm on a multi-dev right here called new multi. And if I go into development, you can see that I am behind on some upstream updates. So I can click on apply upstream updates. I'm going to say confirm, and then it's going to apply those updates. I can see that stuff actually running. So I know that it's applying those updates. So I can do this from inside WordPress, and I can do it from inside WordPress on the dev side. I can do it inside WordPress on a multi-dev. And that's super cool because, I mean, WordPress updates on a normal site happen inside the admin, and this is bringing it back to the admin. I suppose one thing that I could do, which maybe this will be a thing for the future with this plugin, is deeper integration into the WordPress admin, like actually put the upstream updates in the updates page. It's just a thing that I hadn't thought about at the time. But that actually seems like a pretty cool idea, since we are seeing that the update is available. But now, when this refreshes, you see the update isn't available, and we don't have the update notification up there. So we got our update. We can see in the commit log, there's the author Pantheon and update to 6.9.4. The last and most secret and special feature, and this is to show how much you can do with the Pantheon API. Now, obviously, this is kind of a joke feature, but you can, in fact, delete the site from inside the site. So just because I wanted to see what it would do, and if it was possible, I mean, there is an endpoint for it. I have this page where I have a button. It only appears if you have a query parameter, so it doesn't show normally. And obviously, if we made this available to users, I would take this out because it's dumb. But as an example of things that the API can do, I have a big red button that says delete the site. And if I click on that button, it gives me a warning. And if I click on that, it gives me another warning. If I decide to back out, it says, oh, good, that's good. But I'm actually going to do it because this is actually a site that I don't want. This is an old demo site that I'm not using anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and click all of the things, and the site actually gets deleted. And it redirects to my dashboard once that's done. It will show up in the site list for a couple minutes because the deletion is still taking place, but that site is now really for real gone, dead, bye-bye site. And that's because I clicked the big red button. So that is the One Ring plugin, Nazg. If you are a nerd, that is means one ring. It's the words that are inscribed in Elvish on the Lord of the Rings, the ring that Frodo takes into the mountain to burn in Mordor. So one ring, one dashboard to rule them all. Thank you for watching my presentation.